Effects of population on crime. Population and crime are linked with each other. More people in a city equals more crime. The effects of population on crime is one of the most studied criminological theories. Many effects result from having a higher population density, for example, increased likelihood to commit crimes, heightened competition for jobs, housing and other resources such as food and clothing, more likely to have gangs form, less effective police forces due to being spread thin over a greater area and much more. Effects of population on crime in the developed world. Population and crime are a big problem in developing world. The effects of the population on crime in the developed world is an exciting phenomenon to consider. As populations grow, a more significant percentage of people live closer together than before, and there are more opportunities for theft and crimes such as vandalism or assault due to overcrowding. Even though this phenomenon may inconvenience them, it has been shown that communities with higher numbers have better economic conditions, so some counterintuitively say these trends could improve quality of life given time and resources, which would likely help alleviate many social issues caused by high-density neighborhoods like poverty. In recent years, there has been a lot of concern over the effects population growth can have on crime rates. It's no surprise that as populations grow and new people join communities in developed countries from less developed ones where they were born or spent their childhoods, crime may follow. Many things contribute to this effect. Poverty creates an environment for criminal activity, joblessness leads to desperation which drives some individuals into illegal work like drug dealing, lack of education leaves these newer members uninformed about laws and law enforcement procedures, so when situations come up, like someone getting mugged, it is unclear what course of action should be taken since one cannot call the police or ask around if anyone knows anything about who might have committed the crime. Effects of population on crime in developing world. The effects of population on crime in the developing world is a topic that has been hotly debated by experts. The issue comes down to whether or not more people lead to higher criminality rates and what factors are responsible for this phenomenon. A study conducted at Johns Hopkins University found no evidence linking increased populations with an increase in violent crimes like murder, rape and assault. Instead, it may be possible that lower living standards and inequalities lead to increased numbers of violence because they cause social tensions, which give rise to anger among vulnerable groups who then feel justified resorting to criminal acts. Davenport, Durlikov, Korobkin et al. Crime has been steadily on the rise for years now, and it's estimated that by 2100 there will be more than 2 billion people living below the poverty line, which means they won't get to enjoy such luxuries as jobs or health care. Without these two things, crime always seems to find its way into life sooner rather than later. So what do you think we can do about this issue? Effects of population on crime in urban areas. The effects of the population on crime in urban areas is an interesting topic with many possible answers. Rising people increase criminal activity chances because there are more potential victims and opportunities to commit crimes, while falling or stable populations will have less violence overall. One study found that a 10% change in population led to differences between -3% and 3%. This would mean significant growths could lead to 30 to 50% higher rates of violent crime per capita than cities that maintain similar proportions throughout their size range. In the past, it was often assumed that population growth led to an increase in crime rates. Though this correlation is not always present today, many believe there are still links between these two factors. Especially when considering urban areas and their populations of relatively low socioeconomic status, individuals who may be more vulnerable to criminal activity than others within society due to a lack of opportunity for meeting basic needs such as education or employment prospects. Effects of population on crime in rural areas. The population in America is steadily growing, and due to this, crime rates are increasing. The country's rural areas have been most affected by these changes, with a higher number of crimes being committed there than in any other place in the U.S. For example, over one-third more murders were reported here than densely populated cities like Chicago or New York City, even though they contain 10 times as many people. Rural communities face challenges such as not having enough police officers, making them vulnerable since law enforcement can't be everywhere at once. When criminals strike, it's difficult for victims to get help from someone quickly because their neighbors might live miles apart rather than just across town. This puts residents who don't want potential attackers lurking around outside there. The town, which once was prosperous and flourishing, has fallen into a state of despair. This is because the population in rural areas has increased exponentially due to the lack of jobs and high crime rates. Crime rates are much higher than in most urban areas, so people move away from these towns, leaving them lonely with few inhabitants who live there for any length of time. The presence of police officers also decreases after they leave their positions or retire, since this type can't afford expensive homes on pensions that don't go up over time as other professions do, such as doctors or scientists. Not everyone qualifies. Effects of the population on cybercrime. Cybercrime is affected by the population of a country. For example, countries with higher populations generally have more cybercrimes than those with lower populations due to their citizens being exposed to different cultures and people involved in illegal activity on the internet. Cybercrime affects an individual's mental health as well as many other factors, including how often they use technology or whether they are unemployed. It can also lead them into addiction or bankruptcy if not dealt with properly, which should be taken seriously, for one has no idea who could become next victim. Effects of population on crime. Effects of population on cyberbullying. Studies show that cyberbullying is a prevalent issue in today's society. However, with a growing population, it has become increasingly difficult to monitor online activity and minimize cases of bullying on social media sites such as Instagram or Facebook. A study from Stanford University shows that people who are bullied in person can turn into bullies themselves later down the line if they don't have support at home while getting through their experience with personal abuse outside of school. The report emphasizes how important it is for adults to be present during these times, so children know someone cares about them when this type of trauma occurs in their lives. The conclusion that was drawn from Bianchi's study concluded that as increased proportions of youth use technology, higher levels of digital victimization occur, also completing that bullying happens less often offline than online.